Well, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Ben and Walker Movie Show. I'm your co-host Ben Davis, joined by my other co-host Walker Holt, and we're excited to have a conversation with you about one of our favorite things in the world: soundtracks that we honestly didn't deserve. You went too hard, Phil Collins. You went too hard. If this is your first time being here with us today, please sure to hit that. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all the latest content that we have for you guys, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Also, give us a follow over on our socials at Ben and Walker Movie Show, where you can find us on Threads, Instagram, and TikTok occasionally. Not as much as we used to be, but we're still on Instagram pretty heavily. Also, just in case I forget to mention it, if you are watching on YouTube, please comment down below your thoughts on today's show. Now, before we get into our movie today, I just want to say thank you to all of those who participated in the voting for today's episode. It was a very close battle between, was it 22 Jump Street and this, but Tarzan took the cake. If you have been, if we keep getting the turnout that we're getting, we're gonna keep having to do these, man. They're a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, I think they're a great idea. I think they inspire engagement. I think that's what it's all about. I think we want to put out stuff that we want to talk about. We want to put out stuff people want to listen to. So I appreciate it. I keep on voting. We'll keep on doing it.
Yeah, it's really cool too because I thought like 22 Jump Street, Tarzan, two very 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 different movies. The not a lot alike. A family film that takes place in the Disney Renaissance era and and R-rated 2014 comedy. Very different movies, but the
Yeah.
voting was right down the middle. Like Tarzan took the lead really early, and then 22 Jump Street caught up, and it became very close until the very end. It won by one vote.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Wow.
pretty split.
That's great.
Pretty split.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. But as the title of today's episode would suggest, and as I've already kind of alluded to, we're going to be discussing the 1999 Disney animated film Tarzan, which is celebrating its 25th anniversary this month. Tarzan is directed by Kevin Lima and Chris Buck and stars Tony Goldwyn, Minnie Driver, Glenn Close, Alex D. Lenz, Rosie O'Donnell, Brian Blessed, Nigel Hawthorne, Lance Henriksen, and Wayne Knight. If you aren't familiar with Tarzan, the plot synopsis reads like such according to Google. In this Disney animated tale, the orphan Tarzan grows up in the remote African wilderness raised by a gentle gorilla Kala. When British expedition enters the jungle, Tarzan encounters the beautiful Jane and recognizes that her, or like him, like her, he's human. Falling in love with Jane, Tarzan is torn between embracing civilization and staying with his gorilla family, which becomes threatened by the ruthless hunter Clayton, as he says in the movie. So, in the late 1980s, like 1989, I think it's when Disney's The Little
Mhm.
Mermaid came out. We saw the emergence of what we call now the Disney Renaissance era, which lasted from 1989 until 1999. And in that 10-year span, we got classics like the aforementioned Little Mermaid, The Rescuers Down Under, which is not mentioned as much as it should be,
I
the
agree.
Best Picture nominee, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, uh, the Lion King, Pocahontas, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules, Mulan, and today's movie Tarzan. I think Goofy movie could fall in that as well. That came out in the 90s, right?
Oh yeah, it's a good one.
It's not. It's not. Again, it's not. It's not mentioned like Rescuers Down Under in that range usually.
Yeah.
But when looking back at this era of animated films, Walker, what stands out the most to you?
Are these listed in chronological order by release
Yeah,
date?
yeah,
It makes a lot of sense. I'll tell you that right up front. It makes
yeah.
a lot of sense. I'll tell you. I
Mhm.
mean, Lion King. Lion King is one of my favorite movies of all time. I mean, I think Lion King is excellent, but Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, and whatever, just Rescuers Down Under, all big time hits for me. I agree.
Oh
Rescuers,
yeah.
Rescuers, Wife likes them too, and you don't hear about them a lot. I mean, you feel like some people have never even heard of them, and then sometimes you're like, no, it's got like Bernard and Bianca with the, and he wears like the Kangol hat, and they're like maybe. It's like, oh man,
Well,
it's great.
the thing I think about with Rescuers Down Under is the zoom in shot at the beginning. You're
Hmm.
going through the desert, and also the kid has a pocket knife, and I became obsessed with pocket knives.
That's funny. I mean the and I don't know. I mean, a lot of it has to do with just age, and like I
Mm.
mean, but one, two, three, four, five on this list were big in my life. Six, seven, eight, nine, 10, 11 were not that big in my life. So it makes a lot of sense. Also, I mean, the music in a lot of these, but especially Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and Lion King were big to me. I've also like done them several times in terms of like performed them in chorus and
Yeah,
stuff.
because you're a song and dance man.
Yeah. So those all stand out. But if I have to pick one, it's going to be Lion King. I mean, Lion King's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, the things that stand out to me about this era of Disney movie is that all of them were very prominent in my life growing up. All of them except I would say I didn't watch Pocahontas as much. That
Hmm.
wasn't the one I went back to as much, but every other one of these I watched. I would also throw in Mulan. I didn't watch that one as much either, but the rest of these were like on a constant loop in
Yeah.
my house. And it's so funny, like we all kind of had our favorites. I don't know which one was Jessica's favorite, but I remember Chris's favorite, much like you, because you guys are the same age, was
Right.
Lion King.
Yeah.
And then
It's funny how it works.
Holly's favorite, Holly's favorite was Beauty and the Beast, which I also really liked both of those. I didn't. It's funny. I didn't grow to love the Lion King until I was a little bit older. I liked it, but I didn't. I didn't love it. My three, in no particular order, that stood out to me were Aladdin, Hercules, and this one,
Yeah. I
which makes sense timeline wise. Aladdin because I thought it was so freaking funny, and I also loved playing the game on Super Nintendo. Do you remember that
Yeah.
video game?
Oh, I definitely do. Yeah.
I got so good at that game that I could beat it without the parachute in one go.
Wow.
I was legit, man. I was legit. I still have the console and the game, but the cords don't work anymore. So if
Oh man.
someone wants to send me a link where I can find some Super Nintendo SNES like cords that I can plug
I
into my
bet you could.
TV, let me
I've
know.
been on a I've been on an N64 hunt really for about 6 years, just trying to talk myself into buying one and not ever doing it. And then lately, I'm just trying to like decide. I mean, they're more expensive than you'd think they'd be. They're there's all kinds of little ins and outs of should I get the expansion pack with it so I can play Donkey Kong? Like, there's all kinds of stuff, and then all of a sudden
The answer to that is yes.
they tempt me with like a jungle green or a atomic great purple or something, and I'm like, oh, should I get that one? But that one adds like $100 to it, but it does look so retro and cool. So I'm in the middle of a thing.
I
So
had the
I've
jungle
done enough
green, I think.
research. I've done enough research on the this part of it, N64 through eBay and Amazon and stuff, that I'm sure they have Super Nintendo cords out there that can make it work. Even and probably you probably would need an adapter anyway to make it work on a modern TV and stuff. So I'm sure they have stuff out there.
Yeah,
That'd be
because
great
I got
little.
to find it because I still have the game and I desperately want to play it. It's my favorite game ever.
No.
But that's why I liked Aladdin so much. I got to like my family and I that was like one of our favorite games to play together was the Aladdin
Hmm.
game, and that's why that stuck out to me as much. Hercules, I love the character Hercules. I related to the character Hercules. That's why I love that movie. And he was like the cool actiony guy as well. And that's also with Tarzan, and that came out when I was 5 years old. So obviously, this is going to be like the one that really sticks in my brain, and that soundtrack too. Like, dude, again, I know I mentioned it at the top. He went, Phil Collins went so fucking hard on this
Mhm.
soundtrack. It is, I still think to this day, the most incredible, probably my favorite Disney soundtrack. Period. I think without question, at least for me, I think
Yeah,
it trumps everything else.
I completely agree that it's great. It's great. The songs are awesome. One of my favorite tropes that anyone does in a movie is when a character is kind of singing a song and it merges into the actual
Mm-hmm.
album version, like she does when she's like
You'll be in my
playing
heart.
with
Oh
him
yeah,
as a baby. Okay.
oh yeah. We'll get into that. Trust me. That song is incredibly special to me. But as a whole, looking at the bigger picture about what stands out, going back to the question about this era, I think there's something there for everyone in all these movies. There's something there for everybody. And not only that, I think it is this great time period where you have this beautiful hand drawn animation and the merging of the digital animation
Hmm.
and those two
I,
worlds blending together before eventually it becomes completely digital. And you kind of see the tapering off of the hand drawing animation, really, I think once you get to like 2002, because you had a very, very underrated Disney film in Atlantis, The Lost Empire, 2001, which, by the way, you're remaking all these Disney animated movies into live action. That one's begging to be remade into live action. And then Treasure Planet, Lilo and Stitch as well, which Lilo and Stitch is getting a live action animated or live action uh, redo. I think they're filming it or they have filmed it. And then Treasure Planet, highly underrated, and also is begging to be remade in live action. But that's kind of where you start to see the tempering off, and you start to see the emergence of the completely digital.
yeah.
And that to me is what stands out, is this beautiful melding of these two worlds, and also all these movies have something in there for everybody. Um, and that's why I look back on this era. It's probably the still the best era of Disney, I think.
Gotta be.
I would
Gotta be.
say. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I kind of already talked about where Tarzan sits on my ranking, especially for the time. But Walker, where does Tarzan sit for you in the ranking of these movies? We'll just keep it
Yeah.
to these
Yeah.
1989 to
I mean,
1999.
it's gonna be sixth, and I mean, I think we'll get more into it in just a second, but I think it's I mean, my Beauty and the Beast, Rescuers Down Under, Little Mermaid, Lion King, Aladdin. I love them. I think they're just
Mm-hmm.
all great. I mean, Lion King sits above them all, but Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and Little Mermaid. Little Mermaid probably sits below. I think it goes Lion King, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, and then Rescuers Down Under, and then Tarzan. Pocahontas, I will say, this age thing. It's really interesting to see it, and it's honestly younger than I expected. Seeing it here, like on in black and white, because I mean, I was 6 in 1996, so I would have thought that would still be like prime era. But you can just tell. Like I think Pocahontas was kind of on my verge of less Disney
Yeah.
movie, and also I mean I haven't seen it in a while, but I think probably for a 6, 7 year old boy, it was a little boring for me. I don't know, I think I was probably didn't like it. It wasn't my bag as much, and then it gets into the movies that I'm far less familiar with after that. But I would say, from what I know and what I've seen, Tarzan would be either right below Rescuers Down Under or right above Rescuers Down Under at either 5 or 6.
Yeah, I mean, that again, it makes sense. For me, like, I suck at rankings. because I'm always changing. I'm always
Sure.
changing them outside of a couple. I mean, for this era, I think Tarzan and Hercules and Aladdin are very interchangeable at one, two, or three.
Sure.
And Beauty and the Beast would be four, and then five would probably be probably probably man, it's so tough ranking these. It's so tough ranking these, but five would probably be the Lion King for
Yeah.
me, which I know is much lower probably than most would have it. You know, that's arguably people say that that's the greatest animated movie ever made, but just
A
speaking.
lot of this weighs on your experience. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not fair. I mean, it's almost it's kind of like Star Wars. It's really tough to critically and I don't know what the word is, but to view these movies from that lens because so much nostalgia weighs into it, how it makes you feel, how you remember it making you feel. It means so much, and
Yeah.
so it's kind of tough to like look at these in a vacuum and great. I'm like they just were released yesterday, you know. So I mean, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, it's tough, you know, but I think everything outside like of the top 5 would be it, it, it would go all over the place, but the top 3 are very interchangeable at 1, 2, or 3 with Hercules, Aladdin, and Tarzan, Beauty and the Beast, Lion King. Beauty and the Beast to me that's a perfect movie.
It's great.
Like there's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with it. It is a just such a good movie. Absolutely loved it, and I loved it as a kid too. But as I've gotten older, that's been one that I'm like, man, this is like the gold standard. And then speaking like you said from personal experience, it's hard to not put those Aladdin, Tarzan, Hercules as my 1, 2, and 3 because they mean so much to me personally.
yeah.
But when was the first time you saw Tarzan, and what were your thoughts when you first saw it? Because you were a little bit older than me, so like was it one of those things where it's like I'm too cool for this? Were you at that
It's
age,
possible.
or
It's
did it
possible.
possible?
It's
Okay.
possible. Here's what's also possible. It's possible I saw Tarzan for the first time June 1st, 2024. Um,
What?
I think this might have been the first time I've seen it. I was familiar with the movie. I'm familiar with the soundtrack. I knew a couple things that were going to happen, but did not know any of the characters besides Tarzan and Jane. The
I'm dumbfounded.
the the tiger story made sense to me. I don't remember. I mean, now it seems silly to say that when I was nine. It came out when I was 9 or 10. 9. And that seems silly, but it's at I mean, I told you when we talked about it a minute ago that it did, Lion King was like my favorite. Pocahontas, I watched it less. Hunchback of Notre Dame, my guess is I've seen it once.
It's a dark
Hercules,
movie. That movie's
Hercules,
messed up.
Hercules, I'm thinking once. Mulan, I don't think I've ever seen it. And then Tarzan was the last of the bunch. So it just makes sense and started toward in the sense of time, it makes sense. But it's weird because now that I'm looking at, I mean, like 7, 8, 9 feels like a perfectly reasonable age to continue to be right in the middle of it. Wasn't too cool when I was 9. But I mean, maybe my interest just shifted. Maybe I was
Well, a
just
kid who was obsessed with John Travolta.
yeah,
This is
that was high. That was big time Travolta time. I mean, that was in '98 was when Grease was re-released, which really, I mean, that probably played a big part. And I was over watching Saturday Night Fever, just the most
oh.
inappropriate thing you could possibly do. Urban Cowboy. That was my bag when I was 9. So I mean, I think I've seen parts of it. I know the story. I know the soundtrack, and a lot of it sounded familiar. But it's also just an iconic movie that I've just seen clips of here and there. Like I've just been
Yeah.
familiar with. But this is the first time I definitely have like competently intentionally viewed it from beginning to end and absorbed it well. I may have seen it once, but I don't remember. So yeah, it was just
Well,
kind of nuts.
damn.
Yeah, I voted for Tarzan, by the way, because I was like, I need to know this movie. I need to see it. So I might
Oh
have been that
wow.
one vote.
Well, I because I saw that you voted for Tarzan, I went back and voted 22 Jump Street. I didn't care which one won. I just
So you canceled me out.
I canceled you out. But no, I that is shocking to me. But at the same time, having heard you talk about how you kind of tapered off once you get to around that 96 range
Mm-hmm.
and your interest started to become more into, Midnight Cowboy, Pulp Fiction type of
Urban Cowboy,
films.
Midnight Cowboy is a completely Urban Cowboy.
Urban Cowboy, excuse me, not Midnight Cowboy. That's something different. Your interest became
What
more
a
into like the
9-year
John
old on.
Travolta.
Yeah, that was my John Travolta era. For the next four
Yeah,
years, it was WWE and John Travolta. That's all I
that
ever
was
paid
your John
attention to.
Travolta. You're still going through your John Travolta era.
No, I've gotten over Travolta. He holds a somewhat of a spot in my heart, but he hadn't been in anything besides the OJ show. I guess he's just not a good actor. I don't know. He like
You didn't like Gotti?
I sure
That
didn't.
wasn't your favorite,
Mm-mm.
Gotti?
Also didn't like The Fanatic or
Whatever.
God. I didn't. I mean, I don't think I've liked anything. Maybe Bolt. I like Hairspray. Okay, but what was that now? 15 years ago. It's tough to like.
It's been a long time ago, 2007. But yeah, I look for me the first time I saw Tarzan was the summer it came out. This was, prime age for me, 5 years old. Obviously, we talked about it on our last episode. Star Wars Episode One was like my main focus. It was my hyper obsession in the summer of '99, and it was my favorite thing of the summer of '99. But if I were to go back and think about it, which I did for this, like the number two thing for me was Tarzan. And I saw this in theaters. I remember the lead up to it. I think I don't know. There was like some TV specials that were like going behind the scenes that like I watched with my family and like going behind the premiere of it and everything like that. I remember watching that on like ABC or something, and I was really pumped for this movie. And when I went to go see it, absolutely loved it. The soundtrack for this movie became really the soundtrack of the summer of 1999, besides Millennium, which was the Backstreet Boys album.
Yep.
Those two soundtrack to my summer of 1999. But I absolutely loved it, man. And in fact, I still have the action figure right up
You got
there.
up there.
The 12-inch Tarzan. He used to have like a giant spear that he came with and like a little cut off spear when he gets cut off. But I
Mm-hmm.
have no idea where those are. No idea. But I still have
This
him.
is so.
So
This is circa
this is circa
childhood.
1999. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Still intact, which is amazing. Most of my action figures from that time are really beat up. But he made it through. Yeah, I just this was a special movie to me, and I rewatched it all the time. I remember it came out on VHS and DVD, maybe just VHS. I'm not sure, but it came out around my birthday. I remember going to get it
Yeah.
for a report card prize because I made all A's in kindergarten.
Did it come
Big
in the book?
achievement.
The book box?
Yes.
I see. I can't. It's hard for me to even remember. We had a drawer. We had a movie drawer, two movie
Yeah.
drawers. One of them was more adult movies that were in the slip cover, the
Yeah. Yeah.
traditional VHS, and then one of them was mostly Disney. And at the end of it, it was mostly kids. But like I remember, this drawer was 3 feet, at least 3 feet wide, and it was just bookcase like the whole way across it. And then at the end was a couple like non-Disney children's movies, that came in a regular slipcover.
Yeah.
And I was like,
The
what were all
traditional
those
slip
movies? I
cover.
had so many, and I know Tarzan, Hercules, Mulan were not on that.
Mhm.
I didn't own those. I know that. So what were these movies that I had? I guess there's so many. I mean, there's like Cinderella and Snow White, and
So
Aristocats.
101 Dalmatians,
Yeah, God,
yeah,
there is a lot. Yeah,
Beauty and the
yeah.
Beast. Yeah, there's a bunch of them that came in
Obviously,
that
Beauty and the Beast 2, Enchanted Christmas, Lion King 2, Simba's Pro, the real goats.
yeah, those movies are actually low key good. Don't be hating. I honestly I haven't seen those in so long. I can't actually give you a valid.
Simba's Pride's got
valid.
a okay soundtrack.
I remember like was it the Deception
Yeah, it's
Disgrace? Yeah,
great.
yeah. I remember that.
Look as the scar on his face. Some of the songs are
Yeah,
from
yeah,
the Broadway show.
yeah. Like but that's such a again such a great time talking about physical media and all those. Like it's such so cool. I bet
Yeah, it
those are
was fun.
worth so much money now too.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, I love this movie when it came out, dude. This was probably my second favorite movie of 1999. If you were to ask me, it would be Star Wars, and then followed by this. And I will ask you, like, usually this would be like, oh, how does it feel, or how do you feel about it compared to when you saw it now? Like, how
Yeah.
do you feel about it now? But I can't really do that with you because this is the first time you saw it. But what are your honest thoughts on the movie now that you've seen it?
It's definitely good. I absolutely see why it's people's top three favorite. What I mean, number one, number two, number three, whatever. I certainly see how it fits into the mix. The soundtrack is undeniably great.
Mhm.
I wrote a review on Letterboxd about it. Animation was something I called out, and it looks
Beautiful.
very good.
Yeah.
It's a great telling of it. There's a couple like subtleties to the plot that I actually like a lot that I thought were interestingly done that could have been a little maybe done a little more lazily that weren't. But I can't deny that I hate saying this. It's tough. I'm 34 and I watched it yesterday morning and we mentioned the value and the intangible aspect of it, like the Disney movies and Star Wars that like you have with nostalgia and stuff. It doesn't have any of that for me. None of it. Like I don't have. It's just a Tarzan movie I'm watching at 34. For the first time. I enjoyed it. I understand why it's people's favorite. I would imagine my score is going to be lower than yours, probably considerably, but I still have it scored pretty high as a good film. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
I don't imagine as watching it for the first time as a 34-year-old that I will watch it again without a child. I do think, however, I will absolutely watch it with a child one day
Yeah.
and introduce it to him.
It's a the thing I will say about this is watching it now, there's a couple things that stand out to me, but one of the biggest things is how fantastically paced this movie is.
Mhm.
It is a wonderful hour and it's like an hour and a half, but really the movie from its start to like the end of the plot where the credits roll, it's like an hour and 20, hour and 22 minutes, something like that.
Mhm.
And it is brisk and it goes by very quickly. And it's wonderfully paced. Like there's not a
Yep.
lull, there's not a dull moment. It just moves like Tarzan swinging through the vines gracefully. That's how this movie rolls. It's graceful and it's in the way that it flows.
Yeah.
It just really goes. Watching it now, and this is a thing that's always stood out to me about this, I've often complained that in movies, we have so many stories that are father son, that are father daughter, that are mother daughter. We don't have a lot of movies that are great at depicting the relationship between a mother and the son and in the importance of that. Like Forrest
Right.
Gump is on that list. I would say Jojo Rabbit is on that list. The Sixth Sense is on that list. Star Wars Episode One you could probably put on that list, and then this. and then everything else is like the complications of it. It's like the importance of that relationship. It doesn't have a lot of depiction in movies. Maybe I'm forgetting a couple. Maybe I'm being guilty of that right now, but this is one of the better movies that captures the beauty of the importance that is the mother and a son relationship. And I think that media should do more stories that take that relationship in a healthy way, because usually it's always explored in like the monster-in-law kind of way, where it's like this unhealthy relationship between a mother and a son.
Hmm.
And it's one of the most valuable relationships that you could possibly have. And again, we don't have a lot of representation of that. And this movie does a wonderful job with it. And also, like, again, the soundtrack is just incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And the theme of the story too, of you don't have to choose between, like your found family and your actual family. You can have both. You can have your found family and you can have your actual family too. Create your own.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful story to tell as well. You can have, two worlds, one family, right? You can
Right.
have that if you want it. And I think that's a beautiful story to tell, as well as it's about acceptance and finding your place, and even if you feel like an outcast, you can find your place and make it your own, and stand out. And it's it's a beautiful story. I love it. It's why I go back and watch it often. The song "You'll Be in My Heart" holds a special place in my heart, because it was a song that you know me and my mom used to listen to, and it reminded us of us, and our relationship. And it's a song that I sing to my daughter as I put her down for her nap time all the time.
Hmm.
She loves it. So this in a way is a movie that I've passed down to the next generation. I've passed down to my daughter now. She really likes it. She actually watched like the first like 35 minutes of it last night. Was really into it. When she saw the song, she's like, "Oh my god, they're singing 'You'll Be in My Heart,'" which she has now joked around with and gone, "Is it called 'You'll Be in My Fart'? No. 'You'll Be in My Cart'? No." Yeah, she's
That's
a
funny.
jokester. That one, she's really funny. Sense of humor on that kid is pretty. She's hilarious.
That's funny.
But yeah, this movie's special, man. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good man. I mean, I guess I'm a little jealous that it's not doesn't play like the same role in my life, but I've got my own.
Yeah, yeah, you have Lion King, man.
Yep. Yep.
So speaking of ratings, the Rotten Tomato score for this movie sits at 89%, with the consensus being Disney's Tarzan takes the well-known story to a new level with a spirited animation, brisk pace, and some thrilling action set pieces. So you said you would be probably a little bit lower than mine, but still pretty high. Is 89 about where you are, or would you be a little bit lower?
A little lower. I mean, I'm somewhere in the world of like 80. I mean, 79 to 80, somewhere in that world. I mean, it's maybe I should just go and crack at 80 since we call that a must see. I mean, I mean, it's probably 80. I mean,
Yeah.
and I've only seen it the once, and it was yesterday morning. I mean, maybe I can, maybe if I see it again more times, it'll start to think. But and the more you're talking about it, you're pointing out things that are impressive about it, and I'm thinking about things that were good, and so it could end up creeping up there. But yeah, it's probably 80.
Yeah. I think for me it's way high.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I imagine. I mean, if you when we get, imagine Lion King for me, it's going to be an absurd number.
Yeah, this is absurdly high. It's like that 90, 96, 97, 98, 99 range. Like
Hmm. Yeah, I understand.
probably around the 98 range.
Hmm. Right up there with Saltburn.
Right.
It's good.
Yeah, 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 yeah. God, that movie. I just can't, Walker. I'm sorry, I can't. But no, this is really really high up there for me. I again, there's a lot of nostalgia surrounding this movie, but even when I try to take that away, I think this movie just it is so well paced and so well crafted. The beautiful animation, the incredible themes, the exploration of the mother son relationship, the soundtrack. It's so good that I think it has become underrated. Because when people talk about the Disney Renaissance era, obviously they talk about Lion King, Aladdin, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast. Those are like the four that really stand out to a lot of people. But this to me should be thrown in there as well. Like it is so good. I love this movie, man. I would have it at 98 range. I think it's a special movie.
Good.
But the description of this, like the consensus,
Yeah,
hits the nail on the head. I
I
think.
agree. I do too.
But let's get into some fun facts here. And this one took me for a spin. The signature Tarzan yell is provided by Brian Blessed, the voice of this movie's villain Clayton.
Hmm.
Because after
That
noticing that Tony Goodwin could not make a convincing scream, Blessed went on to one of the producers to tell him that he could do it. The producer refused at first, but after he yelled in front of him, he accepted without hesitation.
is that why it sounded like yeah.
Be
He Brian Bless.
gone with him. Yeah, um, and now it is so good. Like it took me because it sounds like Tony Goodwin
Yeah.
doing it. It does. So
Yeah.
when I found that out, I was like, "Oh my god, okay."
Yeah, I mean it's a good one. They only bust it out a couple times, and every time they do, it's like, oh yeah, that's the classic Tarzan.
They busted out twice, and both
Yeah,
moments
I'm
are
trying to
absolutely
think if I think I've definitely like at my grandmother's house when I was young. Like I feel like she had like a old Tarzan. I don't know how many iterations of this movie have been made or TV movies or what, but I just feel like I've seen some Tarzan, and then sometimes I'll be like, no, that was George of the Jungle. And-
So I think I've only seen. I think I saw like one of the older movies, maybe.
Mhm. Yeah,
I
I
I,
don't
I
even know what's out there. This was
I don't.
a way long time ago that I saw these or this.
Yeah, I don't really remember, but I've seen this, and I saw the was it the Legend of Tarzan, the movie that came out like in summer of 2016 with um one of the Skarsgård guys
Hmm.
and
I don't even remember that one.
Margot Robbie, Samuel L. Jackson. Um, it's a solid movie. I thought it was solid from what I remember. But yeah, that's impressive. It's a good Tarzan yell. Animator Glenn Kane has a son who is very into surfing, skateboarding, and snowboarding, which inspired him to incorporate these movements into Tarzan. This is how Tarzan ended up with the ability to slide through the jungle trees rather than just swinging on the vines. And what a great idea that was!
I think it's
Because not
sick.
only it's so sick. It looks so cool in the movie, and it flows with the music and everything. Especially like when they play "Son of Man," I'm just like, oh, this is sick. This is so cool, and it plays into like the era too, where like the late '90s, early 2000s, extreme sports was all the
Yeah,
rage. So like it fits.
I also thought it was a nice and I don't know if it probably doesn't actually make sense, but it was a nice like differentiator, but just physically, biologically between ape and human, and like
Yeah,
how he has to do things differently because he can't use his feet to hang and stuff like he's different. So I thought this was just kind of a he's going to do it his way with the same result.
yeah, it was really cool, and they used it says here they used Tony Hawk is the
Yeah,
person they inspired the movements off of, which again, it makes sense from the era of the time.
of course.
Phil Collins was chosen to provide the music as a deliberate move away from Disney's show tune formula, which fits because could you imagine? I was reading the Wikipedia page for this, And the reason the directors didn't want to do the the whole show tune thing was they thought it would be silly if Tarzan was just belting out songs
Yeah.
in the jungle. And as silly as this movie can be, like that does seem like it steps over, right? And it makes it
Hmm.
even weirder. I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. The idea of that.
Yeah. I mean, hearing it now, I agree, and I think it was a good move. And obviously, it's a iconic soundtrack, means it was obviously the right decision. I do love those types of Disney films with that type of soundtrack. And my guess
I do
is
too.
they could have made it work. And I mean, with some of the goofy characters like Rosie O'Donnell and the is it Wayne Knight the
Turk.
elephant, like
Yeah.
and I'm sure they could have made it work and played a little punchline on Kerjak's grumpiness or something in there, and it been cute and funny. But it's nice that they didn't, and it obviously worked really well. And like their montage with the in the on the campsite played enough of a role that was fun.
Yeah. Uh, Speaking of Phil Collins, I don't know if you know this, but he won an Oscar for this movie, as he should have. For
Good.
You'll Be in My Heart. He beat out tracks like Blame Canada from South Park, Bigger, Longer, Uncut, and When She Loved Me, which is the Toy Story 2 song, which is just freaking so sad.
Yeah,
That song
yeah.
is so sad. I can't. Whenever I watch that movie, it's a great song, but I have to skip over that because it's it is so sad. But this is You'll Be in My Heart again. It's probably my favorite Disney song. Again, for those sentimental reasons, you know. But it's such a beautiful song,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
I
I'm
mean
glad it won.
it's. I mean, for me, it's the most iconic part of the movie. I mean, but again, I hadn't seen it until yesterday, and I don't know if that is true to you. But it for me, I mean, when I
Yeah,
think of Tarzan, the second thing I think after the word Tarzan is "You'll Be in My Heart."
yeah, because it's a wonderful song, and I'd argue that it probably makes your argument that it is the most iconic part of the movie because you haven't even seen the movie, and that's the thing you think about.
Yeah,
And that
it's
like
great.
that
It's
that
great.
really kind of solidifies it as the most iconic thing from the movie. But the reason why the character of you mentioned Turk earlier of Turk is female in this movie is that according to producer Bonnie Arnold, when a male actor auditioned for the part, none of them clicked. When Rosie O'Donnell stepped into audition, it worked and she got the part. Arnold said of the gender change, you don't have to be a guy to be a best friend. And I buy that, dude. Like that is often you see it's guys have guy best friends. They never have girl best friends. But I had plenty of girl best friends growing up. So I never understood that.
Yeah, that's a good move. I like it. I mean, I
Yeah.
hadn't seen it before yesterday, and I hadn't really seen it, and I was watching a little bit of it with Jess, and I was listening to her, and I mean, I thought it was a boy at first, and I was like listening to her talk, and I was like, why does Turk sound like he's from the Bronx or something? I was like, what's with the accent? And I was like, aren't they in Africa? And Jess was like, it's Rosie O'Donnell, and I was like, oh shit, I didn't know that she has some. um, oh, it's funny.
Just giving you the knowledge. Minnie Driver largely ad-libbed the breathless speech in which Jane tells her father Clayton about meeting Tarzan for the first time. She's wonderful in this
Yeah, she
movie
is good. She is,
as the
and that's
voice
a
of
good
Jane.
part.
It's a great part, and when she
Just
goes
doesn't make
off
any
on
sense.
the, but
You know, like
it's
what?
so good though.
I know. I meant like it's from if you were to hear that speech, oblivious, like the man in what? That's funny.
Yeah, the man, the loincloth. What are you talking about? Are you okay? Yeah, yeah, it's great. Her performance in this is great. The Disney animators hired a professor of anatomy to consult with them about the Tarzan's musculature. He superimposed the correct types of muscular or muscles over the drawings to help them show how to depict a man at the peak of his physical prowess. And that is the thing I was thinking about with this movie is, dude, Tarzan's freaking jacked. That
Yeah, he
shot of
looks
him
good.
like holding up
Tiger.
Sabor
Hmm.
and his quads are just like huge. I was like, dear lord, he didn't
I
skip
mean,
leg day.
yeah, he's. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, look at what he's doing every day,
Yeah.
and who knows what he's eating. He's probably on like a 600 calorie a day diet, just swinging through trees every day. He's shredded.
Eating a lot of fruit, um, getting jacked. But yeah, I it's so funny again. This is a visual thing, as I can't really show it if you're listening to it on the pod, but there is a funny photo that I have shared multiple times with Walker of my last bodybuilding show. I had really long hair because I grew up my hair to donate it. And toward the end, my face looks very different and it like sinks in, and I have what I call diet face. And for my Regal movie pass app, they make you take a photo. You can't change the photo. The photo is of me from peak week, diet week, and I look just like animated Tarzan.
Yeah, you really do. It's funny.
It's freaking ridiculous. I can't show it, but it makes me laugh every time I see it. Speaking of like the musculature and stuff like that, I didn't look as ripped as Tarzan. Let me just tell you that, but it always makes me laugh. Always makes me
Yeah, that's funny. It's always off-putting when you send it to me. It's always like, jeez, that's funny.
laugh.
Who's that?
This became the last movie, short length or feature length, made by Walt Disney Animation Studios to win an Academy Award until Paperman in 2012 won the Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film of the Year 13 years later, though other movies made by Disney Animation had been nominated.
Hmm.
Again, this just goes to speak to the era of which Disney was just dominating, and then Pixar really
Yeah,
took over. But then
yeah,
eventually Disney kind of came back, which is funny. It's like Disney's competing with itself
yeah.
because they
Well,
own Pixar.
that's how to do it.
Yeah. And now they're both going back and forth. I would really say it started with Princess and the Frog. That was the movie that kind of catapulted Disney animation back. And then you had like Tangled and Frozen and a couple others since. Speaking of Frozen, that is the movie that Zoe loves right now. I've seen it about 50,000 times.
Yeah. How old's that movie now? 2016?
It came out in 2013.
13. Jeez. God. These years, they just go.
Right?
It's
It's
just,
crazy.
jeez.
This movie went back into the Disney Vault, which was a thing. If you guys remember what the Disney Vault was, January 31st, 2002. Typically, this means the VHS and DVD versions of the movie were pulled from store shelves on this day, and the movie won't reappear in either format for 10 years. This is something that Disney used to do quite often. They would pull something from shelves to kind of create an aura around it, and then they would re-release it from the vault, and it would be like the special edition version of the movie, and they would upcharge it and make a bunch of money off of it. And honestly, it's something I kind of miss because now we don't have that with streaming. Everything is on streaming,
Yeah.
and it kind of makes things a little bit more special. As much as
Yeah,
it is like
definitely.
as much as it is like a thing to like a capitalist way of getting more money, re-releasing the same thing and just making more money off of it. I I miss it because it makes
Yeah.
stuff feel more special.
It's a similar conversation to just like our experiences at the movies. Like, I mean, there's definitely a reason why things are the way they are, and things are convenient and things are great. And only us would find a way to complain about having access to everything we want in terms of movies, but there is just like an aura about things and like an energy that can't be duplicated anymore. That was always I mean, it's just cool. It's just fun.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I miss it, but it does speak to the era. Maybe someday we'll get back to it. Maybe someday.
Yeah.
All right, but let's move on to our award section. Start off with best scenes and moments as we always do. The opening / two worlds, one family montage. Opening's great, man.
Yeah, I mean, it is great. I it immediately again, I've probably parts of this came back to me as like scenes I had seen before, or maybe I just understood the story well enough, like just from in general. Immediately, it was like, "Oh man, it's about to be sad." Like it was like, "Oh man." So it was good. It hit a nice punch.
Well, it hits the train tracks running. Like it
Yeah,
just goes again. Like this movie just it flows so nicely, and you get that great song, Two Worlds, One Family. I love the title card too.
yeah,
Like the breaking away of the tree bark, and then you see the Tarzan. You have the big drums coming in. It's
yeah.
great.
It kind of reminds me of Field of Dreams a little bit, how they get into it. They do a little montage on what's about to
Mhm.
happen, and then boom, we're in the story. We're in the movie now.
The best movies
We're
do
not
that.
wasting time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the best movies do that. Um, Kala saves Tarzan. Surprising that they show the dead parents. Like that's
You
kind of
know,
violent for a
there's
Disney
another
movie.
scene too later that we'll talk about, but well, I guess I'll go ahead and say the scene where Clayton meets his demise with the
Mm,
lightning and the shadow. I thought that was
yeah,
really, I mean, first of all, spooky and eerie like it should be, but also like pretty adult and surprising
yeah,
and pretty. I liked it. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say, oh, I mean, it made me feel the way it should make me feel, and the way they did it with the lightning and not lingering too long. Just, I mean, you could
a
even miss it,
glint.
especially as a child watching. You could even miss it and just and I thought it was really well done.
Yeah,
Even the bloody paw prints
yeah,
were a lot.
graphic. And then Sabor kind of like hovering in the rafters. That creepy
Yeah,
shot of it, like doing its shoulders
yeah,
like
he's
this.
scary.
Yeah, but it's so cute between baby Tarzan and Kala. It's so sweet and cute, and the huh thing that baby does is very very cute. And when he's getting pulled, it's just funny.
Yeah,
But a great action set piece too, because you do get like tense. You know, and I remember as a
yeah,
kid I got tense
yeah.
seeing
And
it. But
it was a nice like I don't know. Everything was creative, and it made it seem scary and intense, but also like fun and imaginative. How just the little like the
because
way the
baby
treehouse
Tarzan
was
is supposed
set
to be
up.
fun, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
and like
fun to him,
the
but playful.
diaper through the crack and watching them like figure out what they should do. Just like it was just I don't know. I imagine especially for a child, even me as an adult was like kind of engaged in that part.
Yeah,
And more so than normal, just like oh that would be and it's just silly, but it was still like fun to like watch them like do things and make us scary. And it was good. It was a great balance. It was good.
yeah, sure. You'll be in my heart. I
I
mean,
was watching this scene. I you know how she's Kyle's like tossing Tarzan up in the air a little bit in the tree and like
yeah,
playing with him and
yeah,
stuff. And I think I was responding to a Airbnb thing on my phone for a second, and Jessica was watching at this point beside me. She was like, "You're missing the best part." She was like, "Put it down." And she's like, "You're missing the best parts." I was like, "All right, well,
she's
sorry."
right. You were missing
I
the
know.
best part. This part is so again. It's spoiler alert. This is my favorite scene in the movie. It is so crucial to my upbringing, but it's so sweet and a great song and beautiful. The animation at the end too, with like the butterfly on the face and every it's just
Oh, that
it's
was a good part.
so
Yeah.
so good.
I also love, I said this already today, but I love when a character may be singing a song just in like a small lullaby form or just not crudely. I mean, she's a fine singer, but like not professionally done. You know what I mean? Like it's just a person singing to
Yeah.
their son, and it morphing into the studio recording of an amazing song. You know what I mean? I think that's always a
Yeah.
fun thing. It's kind of like another version of it that's less special but still cool is like maybe if you have a video of like people in a bar and the jukebox is playing and it's done in a way that it sounds like, hey, I'm listening to a bar that the jukebox is playing, and then when it hits a certain point it turns into like the recording, you can't hear the bar anymore, and
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but I love those transitions, and I think those are great, and this was one of
Yeah, it's again, there's two versions of this song. There's the like radio version of it, which is much more contemporary, and then you have this version. I prefer this version. I love both, but I prefer this
them.
version. Are you sure this water is sanitary?
Yeah.
Looks
That was funny.
questionable to me. I love
that,
that.
that was funny. I agree, that whole scene was funny.
You're testing mommy's patience, or mommy's losing her patience. It's freaking funny.
I love
Oh,
that like how they, I mean, they've probably done this in other movies, but how they depict elephants and water as like a group of moms like shooting the shit like in like their
yeah,
little like hangout time. I think that's always funny.
yeah.
Or
Talking
the kids
about
playing
the
at the park or
piranhas.
yeah,
Yeah, they are
that's
native
funny.
to South America. Yeah. Comforts young Tarzan again. Just so
Yeah.
sweet, letting him know that because he's so different and he feels so different and he doesn't feel like he has a place to belong. Yet she is being the most amazing mother in the world, letting him know that like, look, there might be differences, but our hearts are the same. We have two hands, a nose, and two eyes, and our hearts are the same. Because you'll always be here. You'll always be in my heart. You'll always be my baby, and I'll always take care of you. And you don't have to feel different. You're special just how you are. And
Yep.
not much separating us. Again, it's just a very touching scene that always like makes the emotions go. You know?
Yeah. It also adds weight to the end of the movie and
Yeah,
keeps. Yeah,
yeah.
I agree.
It perfectly goes into the Son of Man montage.
Yeah.
Freaking sick, man. The scene of him climbing up the waterfall and that beautiful rainbow shot.
Yep. You get to
So
see, finally
sick.
see your skateboards. Yep.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, it's just guys so cool. So cool, man. I got chills watching it last night. I was like, God, this is so awesome. I love this song. Son of Man, banger. Certified banger.
Yeah, this is definitely the type of movie you watch, and then you watch it on a Saturday, and then the rest of the Saturday afternoon, you every time you get in the car, you just throw on a couple of these songs, and you listen to them about 9 times.
Oh yeah, I was doing the research for this show. That's or this episode. That's what I was listening to. I was listening to Tarzan. I was like, fuck yeah, I'm listening to Tarzan, man. Civil War versus Tarzan. If you would have asked me when I saw this movie, this was my favorite scene then. Like, it's so
Yeah,
cool.
from what this is one of the things I was kind of mentioning earlier, where I think a lazier movie kind of could have. I mean, maybe I'm being dumb here, but I think a lazier movie. When I started watching the movie, and how it begins with the family and stuff. I thought Sabor, and I knew Sabor would come back. Like I knew that was going to be a conflict. I thought that was going to be like how it ended, and it was going to be like this redemption type
Mhm.
movie, not redemption, but like
Revenge.
justice type movie, and that
Yeah.
was going to be the point of it, and that would have been much lazier, I think, than what the movie was actually
Yeah.
about. And I am glad that we get that justice and we get that. I don't know if revenge is the right word for the movie, but you know what I mean. Like I'm glad we get that scene. I'm glad it's kind of an epic moment, but I'm also glad that it was just part of the film and not the climax. If that makes
Yeah.
I expected it to be the climax and it to be the moment that he gets vengeance for his family and also proves to be a man ape and gets accepted. I mean, what it was, but I expected that to be the ultimate part end of the movie, and it was just a good part of the movie, which makes it
Well, it's
even better.
what's great about it is it cuts away from that moment where he's about to be accepted and you hear the gunshot.
Yeah, yeah,
Because and this is the moment where you get the big whoa. I'm not even going to try to do it, but you get that part of it. And
yeah.
again, freaking great shot, great rousing score when he does it. Great sequence. And it's pretty thrilling. You know how close of a battle it is. Tarzan gets hurt during the battle.
It's a
It's
good fight.
close. It's a great fight. Yeah, I really enjoy it quite a bit. Tarzan rescues Jane slash Tarzan and Jane's first interaction. Another great sequence.
Yeah, that one gets wild. That one's fun and creative how they do it. Similar to the opening
Ye-
scene with Sabor, like they use a lot of things creatively. It's fun. It's playful.
It going down the. I love the shot of them going down, like in
The hollow
between
trunk,
the hollow
the,
trunk going down in there. The shot of
the
him
split.
this catches her in the split and he goes, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
good.
it's all great. They find clever ways to like incorporate like some thrills with him almost dropping her, almost letting go of her, but then catching her, and a lot of good moments there. But then when they have their first interaction, like it comes off as playful and innocent, but also inquisitive and like, oh my god, there's someone else that looks like me.
Mm-hmm.
And the listening to the heartbeat and the funny bit of like get off, get off. I love that, love that,
That is good. It's good. It's well done.
love that. But yeah, good little bit there. Um, Strangers Like Me, again, another banger of a montage.
Yeah, it is, and it's a good song. And I'm not saying it's my favorite song of the movie. It's not, but I enjoyed the coercion between the song and the scene the most at this point. Like
Mhm.
I thought the song and the scene fit together the best in this part. I like "You'll Be in My Heart" as a song better, and I like the scene a lot. It gave me chills. You mentioned chills a second ago. It gave me chills watching it. But this one, I don't know. I love the. I liked the lyrics. I like how they fit with what was happening on screen really
Well,
well.
it speaks to what's going on within Tarzan right now. Like it's this mix of I am so curious about these are the I thought I was the only one like this. I'm not. This is a whole world that I know nothing about that I want to know more. Can you show me something's familiar about all this while also falling in love with Jane? You know, the
Mm-hmm.
what's it called? It's the why do I feel this growing need to be beside you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the sweet moment of him taking her up to see all the birds and them swinging on the vine and them getting close to kissing and the way that he's just this longing look he gives her and this like shy look that she gives him and kind of back. So it's great, man. It is
Yeah.
peak Disney. Love it. Kala shows Tarzan his true heritage and his past, and Tarzan makes a choice. Again, this is a highly emotional scene for me because it starts playing the like musical version of "You'll Be in My Heart," and she leaves him in there to take a look at everything, and he comes back out in his dad's outfit,
Mm-hmm.
and she just immediately bursts into tears. And I'm not gonna lie, I got emotional when I saw that scene last night when I was
Yeah, it's a
watching
good
the movie.
scene.
I was like,
It is.
yeah, it's so good. And like she tells him, "You'll always be my baby." It's very close to like when someone like a son goes away to college, you know, or
Sure.
when a son gets married, you know, making that choice to now he's creating his own family, he's doing his own thing, and you have to let go. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh god, this is bittersweet. It is because he's happy, but you're losing your baby, you know.
Isn't it? Yep.
Kerchak accepts Tarzan while passing. Tarzan accepts his new role. This is the thing. Like, yes, I ultimately think this is a mother son movie, but it is a little bit of a father son movie too, and trying to earn your father's respect. And by the end of this, he does earn Kerchak's respect. He finally calls him a son, and the moment again, get chills when he beats on his chest and then puts his paws down, and you have the score rousing, and it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is a good scene. It's also nice when Jane kind of is like, "No, let him do his thing. This is their. This is
Yeah.
their."
Jane decides to stay with Tarzan slash the final swing.
I like this part a lot.
I
I
do
mean,
too.
I it might be silly, but I it instantly, just because it put such a nail in it and made me smile the whole time, and I laughed out I laughed out loud when Jane's dad was just like, "Ugh!"
Dude,
Like,
I completely forgot about that. He's wearing the loincloth. I freaking died. I was like, oh my
yeah.
god, I forgot about this. This is amazing. When he jumps off the boat too. Doodle pip. Yeah.
Yeah. This was this scene. I mean, I know it's just like a silly little way to make you end on a smile, but it instantly rose at like a couple points for me. Like, I was trying to settle on my score towards the end of the movie, and I was like, all right, that gets a few. I bumped it up a little bit because it was really really funny, and fun, and the music's great, and
Yeah, you
it's
get
you get to
the
see the six game where it's the best parts of the movie all kind of wrapped into one little thing and a little joke as we
it's,
go.
it's Tarzan getting to have his cake and eat it too. He gets to be part of this, like he's the leader of this his family now. He is the leader, and not only that, but he also gets the girl that he's fallen in love with, the woman that he's fallen
Yep.
in love with, and she chose him. And that's the thing too. It's like it lets her have the free will to make the choice, and she ends up making the choice to go back and stay. And father does too, and they all live happily ever after. And of course, you have that moment where, again, I get chills. There's several moments in this movie where I get chills, but you have the two worlds, one family, and you hear the do do, and then you hear the big Tarzan chant as he's like beating his chest at the end of the movie. Great.
Yeah, it is good. Good wrap up.
Yeah, it's great. But I think, again, favorite scene in the movie for me, I've always spoiled it. It's You'll Be in My Heart. It's such a touching moment. It means so much to me emotionally, not only because of my relationship with my mother, but also because of my relationship with my daughter. What about you, man? What's your favorite scene and moment?
I just really went in on that final little bit. I really liked that scene. It probably made me smile the hardest and laugh. But if I'm going for a little more plot driven scene, I really liked the Sabor Tarzan fight. I mean, I thought that was like a pivotal
It
moment. I
was.
really was impressed that it, like, of the stuff I said about it, and it was pretty intense and had a good ending to it. So I'll probably say that just because it's a little more impactful of a scene. But I will say I smiled the hardest during that end.
Yeah, when Jane's father swings to him, man, Junk's so funny. Caught a hard laugh from that last night. Worst scenes and moments. I only have one thing, and it's the shoobadoop dabadap doobadoop song. I
Is that
always
which one is that?
That's the where they go to the camp and they trash it.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I hear you. It was a little out of. It was kind of like when you mentioned earlier, like not going the show tunes route.
This falls
Going
into the
closer
show.
to this.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was kind of like, well, we're not going to completely do it. We're still going to have a little of that in there, but we're going to make it this special like way. I didn't mind it. Just because I like that kind of thing. But I do agree in terms of it not exactly fitting.
it doesn't fit. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the only thing. Like the tune itself is good. I just
yeah.
it doesn't fit with the rest of the movie.
So I like the trope of noises making a song too. Sometimes, I mean, none do it as well as the keys
Oh yeah,
jingling and
oh
on the open room.
yeah.
But
Open
yeah.
road. Yeah.
On Maxie. Yeah.
Come on, Maxie. Yeah. I think that's the only thing I have for this though. Do you have anything else or
No, no.
yeah,
I mean, no, nothing was.
yeah.
There was nothing bad about this movie. It was full of good scenes.
Yeah.
Disney's good at that.
They are. Best performance, I think it's Minnie Driver. I think she's
Yeah,
wonderful.
she's awesome. She's awesome. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Brian Blessed though. I kind of liked the character.
It's because you like Boston.
Clayton did a good job of like he wasn't just like shitty the whole movie. You know what I mean? Like I mean, you knew he had some. You knew he wasn't
He was
great,
shady. Yeah.
but there were moments that like they stood side by side. They had conversation. They like, and maybe it was all part of a ploy, but there was moments that like it felt a little more nuanced than a typical just bad guy.
He
You
had a
know what I
really
mean?
good voice actor doing it,
Yeah, and
which I think makes all the difference.
yeah, so I mean, it was I liked him. I mean, Minnie Driver was awesome. Shane, I mean, Jane was, including her depiction, her animation. She almost looked like somebody I know, and I couldn't put my finger on it. You know what I mean? She
Yeah.
had like a certain like I don't know resemblance to her that I couldn't place, but it felt familiar.
Yeah, I agree. Does this make sense award? So, look, it's an animated movie. It's fantasy. You kind of have to suspend disbelief. But how is Sabor's foot not like gone after it got tangled and then he holds the weight of the gorilla, the boat, and the baby from a very long fall. Like that is the thing that stops it. That foot would be broke. It would be gone. I mean, you could say like, it finally healed after years. You know, that kind of what made it the match between him and Tarzan a little bit more even. But that could kind
Yeah,
of be your head canon. Also lived a very long time.
yeah. I don't know the typicals, but that's always in my head whenever there's a human to bounce it off of.
Yeah.
I remember when I was younger, I used to talk all the time about like Simba growing up in Hakuna Matata, and I still don't know the answer. I feel like my parents just made something up, but I feel like I was under the impression grown up Simba was like 3 years old, and I'm not sure if that's true or not. It's like I don't like no, they grow up in like 3 years. It's like, so I don't know.
Tantor's mom just kind of bailed on him after that scare with Tarzan. That does he just that he's always Tantor's always just kind of hanging out with them. Is he kind
Yeah,
of alone now? I mean, there's more elephants that come in at the end to save the day, I guess, but you never really see him interact with them after that scene.
yeah. She's probably just had enough. This is the other side of the mother son relationship
Yeah,
where she's just
her
had
her
enough at all.
her, her patience wore thin.
Yeah.
So it's fantasy clearly, but why on earth would they stay? Like,
This is the winner. I mean, this is
her father
insane.
goes, "No, Jane, I feel like you should stay with the ape man who thinks he's a
You're
mother."
in love.
I really feel like you
That's
should stay.
yeah.
It's a thing you have to buy into, right? Like you
Oh
have
yeah. Oh yeah.
because if you
I
think
mean,
about
they
it,
do it well. They
yeah,
make you buy into it, but if you take one step back and look at it, you're like, what the hell is going on here? Like what?
what is wrong with you? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, think about Zoe on a boat in 14 years or something,
Yeah, no
and being
chance.
like, this man in the jungle. You know
Yeah,
what, Zoe?
no chance.
I'm going back to Europe. I know he doesn't go back to Europe. Maybe you stay in your loincloth and grow your hair back out.
Yeah, dress up like Tarzan, like you were supposed to do today. Yeah, yeah. This is clearly the thing. Also, and I think this has been memed to death, but there is a shot at the end of this where Tarzan's holding Jane and still swinging as the vine's behind him. He's clearly holding this vine in his butt cheeks, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And he didn't skip leg day by the looks of
Yeah,
those
you've seen
quads,
those
so his
glutes.
glutes are probably pretty big too. Yeah, he's just squeezing them right there, holds them right up.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I think number three is probably the biggest thing. But again, if you buy into the fantasy of it all, I mean, there's talking monkeys, which they
yeah,
clearly show that that's what Tarzan hears is them talking, but the humans don't hear that.
yeah. Well, first of all, they're talking apes. I've been on a big apes kick for these last couple weeks between the Planet of the Apes movies.
Yeah,
I get very offended when apes are called monkeys. They're
my
not.
my my bad. Apes, excuse me. I stand corrected.
No, yeah, that's the number three. I mean, yeah, that you wouldn't let your daughter off the boat. You wouldn't get off the boat. I can't. I mean, I guess. I mean, Tarzan is a quick study when it comes to English. I mean, I guess it's just in his. I mean, in his DNA, literally. I guess, but
But he
he
can
was able
mimic
to speak
things very
pretty.
easily. Yeah,
Yeah, he's good at it.
he's very good at
So
it.
yeah, I'm gonna say that makes the least sense, but they let you buy into it.
Yeah, I'd say, look, this is all in good fun. I buy into this movie. This movie's probably top three animated movie, like Disney animated movie for me of all time. So, like, I buy into it. Clearly, I love this movie a lot. It means a lot to me. It's all in good fun. But if you take a step back, you look at it, this is probably the thing where you're like, yeah.
Sure.
MVP of the movie, Phil Collins. I think this is a no brainer. I think it's very easy. It's Phil Collins.
I agree completely. It is a no brainer. It's just great. I'm gonna go let's do it this afternoon.
I am too. Son of Man. It's going to be on repeat while I'm doing some work up here. Finally got some shelves to put all my figures on, so pretty
Oh,
pumped about
cool.
that. Yeah, pretty pumped about it. I'll have to send you some photos when I'm done. But at the end of the day, Walker, why would you recommend this movie?
I mean, it's just another classic entry in the Disney library,
Yeah,
and it's on the better end of things. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not saying every. I mean, Disney had its era. They were huge. It was great. I like some better than others. There's some that I don't care for. There's some that I think are some of the best films ever made. I definitely, regardless, speaking from experience, regardless of your connection and nostalgia to it, it's definitely on the upper end of things. I think it's great animation. We've talked about the soundtrack ad nauseum. It's incredible, and it's an emotional, well told story. I've mentioned the nuance. I've mentioned the subtlety of it that I think are advanced in storytelling. It's a great movie. If you have children, if you have a family, sit down and watch it. If you don't, watch it on a Saturday morning like I did and listen to the soundtrack all afternoon. But
yep.
it's a good film you should watch.
I couldn't say it better myself. I think this is a. I think the number one reason I think I would recommend this movie is that it is such a brisk movie that moves at such a pace, and it is like the music itself. It's so catchy, and it gets its way into your heart, and it doesn't really let go. It is a wonderful cap to the end of this Disney Renaissance era.
Yep, I agree. You got anything else for us today?
Nah, man, this has been fun. Again, this was a fan voted episode. We'll probably do more of these. We'll probably do more of
Yeah,
these.
keep voting.
Yeah, keep voting, keep doing it. Next episode we're gonna do probably be at the end of this month. Will be Spider-Man 2. We'll be joined by two guests on that, and that'll be really fun to do. I'm so excited and so looking forward to it. Spider-Man 2 is gonna be 20 years old. That is
That's
it.
unbelievable.
Yeah. Makes me feel old.
Well, I guess that does it for this week. Thank you all so much for listening. If you're hearing this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, thanks for watching. If you're catching us on YouTube, um, please be sure to like and subscribe for more movie content. Let us know in the comments, what did you think of Tarzan? Where does it rank on your list? But with that being said, this has been Ben and Walker, and we'll see you next time.